Let's bring in the guests who are joining us this Sunday morning. Ambassador Rajiv Dogra continues to be with us. We also have Shireen Moti, who is a professor of law at OP Jindal Global University, who is joining us. Ambassador Rajiv Dogra, thank you for your time here on Sunday morning, sir. India has created a new template, is the message that is going from the security establishment and the executive establishment of India. How do you see the world is seeing this ceasefire which has been arrived at? Of course, this is, as you rightly put that last evening, only the halting of the military action.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you to your colleague and your viewers for being patient and catching the nuances that both of you have been giving to them about this very tense period and how India is handling the situation in a calm, mature manner. So let's see how it goes from here, because Monday at 12 o'clock, that means tomorrow 12 o'clock, is the time when two DGMOs will be in touch with each other. So that is the time when either they say, okay, well done, or there will be complaints on one side or the other. So that's the test case. But even then, the issue is not settled, because what follows thereafter, and it depends on when and if, is the talks between the two countries, either sotto voce in terms of back channel or directly. But I hope it does not involve a third party, because UN Secretary General seems to be very eager and impatient to step in. And the UN Secretary General has a record of visiting Pakistan almost every year, at least in 2020, 21, 22. So India's insistence all through has been that we don't want any third party. So I hope that that is maintained. The other point I wish to emphasize on is that this is also a time for our stock taking as to who stood by us. Did European countries back us up, like America had been doing at various levels, starting from President Trump to Vice President to Secretary of State and many others? They, from 22nd April onwards, they were quite forthright in their support for India, just as Rishi Sunak from UK was, the former Prime Minister of UK. But there were others in Europe who were not so vocal or open in their support for India and what it had suffered on 22nd April and the struggle thereafter. So one is stock taking.
Ambassador Dogra, just hold on to your thoughts, because let me introduce other panelists who are joining us at this hour. I would be really grateful, because, you know, Sunday morning waking up and coming for a panel discussion is quite a thing. So thank you so much. Robinder Sajdev, foreign policy expert, and Professor Shireen Moti, who is a law professor at OP Jindal Global University. Please continue, Ambassador.
So the second thing is whether some of the equipment has performed according to our expectation, be it Rafale or some of the other equipment that we had acquired. So I think that is very important in this pause, and hopefully a very long and permanent pause in this conflict. There are other issues also, and those issues concern whether this is the only danger that India faces, which means the west side danger, or there are other issues that we should also look out for any future contingency. So I think this is the time for us to sit back, reflect, but not to give up on our vigilance and not to lower our guard. Because I just heard before your program began, you mentioned about increasing the security vigilance at various defense installations and other critical sites. So let's hope things work well, but we should be prepared for any eventuality.
Right. Professor Shireen Moti, now this warlike situation was not something that India intended to continue or prolong either. It was something that we did as a retaliation to the terror attack that took place in Pahalgam, and we continue to reiterate that fact that our war was against terror, in fact, not a nation.
Definitely. Pakistan cannot be trusted after the violation of the ceasefire agreement. It was to come into full and immediate effect. Pakistan has been a habitual offender when it comes to breaking promises, and this has become a huge concern for our national security. Tremors of the Pahalgam attack can be still felt across the nation and across borders. Therefore, the retaliation from the Indian army should be strong. It should be a full-fledged, full-scale attack, that a conflict that we enter with Pakistan, because we gave them a lot of leeway. We believe in peace, we believe in harmony, but the other side is not willing to come to a compromise, to come to a ceasefire, and this is detrimental to the security and the lives that are at stake. If you look at Pakistan, it is run by a 2.5 government.
All right, we'll try and connect to
there's a government by the people, military, and then you have fundamentalists like Masood Azhar. And therefore, in my view, and as a person who is akin to understanding international law and constitutional law, and I'm a Kashmiri Pandit myself, what I have experienced in the region and what I can say clearly is that maybe the Pakistan government was in favor of peace and harmony, and the people wanted peace and harmony, but the fundamentalists are the people who do not want any kind of peace, and they just want the infiltration of militancy to continue in the region and to spread that terrorism, and therefore the military attack. I also believe that diplomacy will only just the last point. Diplomacy will only take shape when we have a very strong military action, and it's backed by our soldiers, it's backed by the army, that we are able to get into any kind of diplomatic dialogue with our neighbors.
Okay, let's bring in Ravinder Sachdev.
Maria, in fact, I wanted to just add a point.
Yes, please.
You did mention a template that India has now set.
Yes.
And we saw immediately after the Pahalgam attack as well, we started focusing on the terrorists or the associates of them in Kashmir. So that's something that we can expect that the Indian government will be focusing on in Kashmir.
Absolutely. The crackdown that was carried out was something which we saw play out. Of course, it was also about sending the message which came in from the Prime Minister when he addressed the people of India and also the world at large when he spoke from Kishanganj in Bihar, that India will track, trace and identify each and every terrorist and will hold them accountable. So certainly that message has gone. Would you now say then, Ravinder Sachdev, that India's strategic inflection point was this Operation Sindoor, which starts on 7th and continues till 10th? Of course, yesterday was the day when India carried out, Operation Sindoor 3.0, when it went ahead and struck the military bases, the air bases, the critical installation inside Pakistan.
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be with you and your esteemed panel. No, absolutely is inflection point. I mean, our doctrine, I think, has now and has been mentioned, I think. We know. Our doctrine now is tit for tat. Forget the idea that, what was the background, Pakistan did this. If we are hit, we have to hit back. That is our doctrine now. And by the way, I've been mentioning on your show earlier also, this was a language which has struck a chord and Trump has understood also. You would see he tweeted the next day in the morning, both nations have done a tit for tat, time for them to settle down. So if we get hit, we will hit back. So that's our doctrine now in terms of an inflection point, as you say. Second, what is our end game? If we were to wish, I think perhaps with Pakistan, which will, of course, I don't think in our generations even, or hopefully if it could be, Pakistan has to learn to live and let live. It has to learn to live and let live its neighbors. If it does not, then it's going to get hit again and again. I think so between these 2 points, the inflection in our strategic doctrine in terms of our foreign policy, tit for tat. And secondly, what is the end game we want? We envisage, what is the scenario ideal that we would want? I mean, we could want much more things to be ideal with Pakistan. But if we can somehow square up Pakistan in that box bucket that it learns to live and let live. But when would that happen is open to the jury, and it has all the complexities which our earlier esteemed panelists mentioned, about the fundamentalism, extremism, radicalism, radical thought, and the Pakistan state and all of that, and their continuing angst over Kashmir. So between these two is where we are, I think, as of now. Now, in terms of the American, another thing has happened in this. Okay, again, stepping back. This was not only a terror attack on India. This was not only an attack to, create divisions amongst religions in our country.
Yes.
This was an economic hit on India. And this was an economic hit not only on the Kashmir economy, on the overall Indian economy. This was an economic hit which benefited China. Right now, due to the Trump tariffs, many American companies are having to shift out of China immediately within weeks. Some of them who've been pressured. They're looking options, where to go, India, one candidate. If there are war clouds in India, they don't come to India. It's an economic hit on India. And lastly, one more point I'll mention, nuclear. Pakistan has been threatening the world or, rolling out this issue that, India or we will have no option other than launching a nuclear strike against India. Pakistan has been, peddling another narrative to the Americans, which in fact, I think resonated again with the Americans when they moved up for the ceasefire. Pakistan has been putting forth that if we go to war or if there's a big war with India or India, attacks us, our nation can be broken up, etc. Our nuclear assets could fall into the hands of non-state actors. America, do you want our nuclear, arsenal, dirty bombs circulating around in this region and in the broader Middle East? So that's the other side of the nuclear, bogey that Pakistan has been playing up.
So I wish to give the last word to Ambassador Dogra. Ambassador Dogra, this is also the time that we are seeing a lot of narrative being set by multiple countries who were in the mix here. Islamabad will obviously give that impression that they had an advantage. United States is also trying very hard to send a message, particularly given the temperament of Donald Trump. And now the messaging which has to come from India. Do you think, in this all mix, how do you see India's narrative building here onwards?
Well, that's a very important point, Maria, because the world opinion matters, especially in this age of social media. Within seconds, people get influenced, and then it is very tough to blank out, wipe out, and create a new impression on the minds of people. So I think we have to be very quick on feet in this regard. And the government has already started doing that, firstly by fact-checking and putting it on social media, television media, and so on, that these claims by Pakistan, for example, are not correct, whether they relate to some pilot being captured or some such thing, or aircraft being damaged or attacked. So that's a good thing. But the broader point is that the Kashmir issue, which Pakistan is now aiming to get an advantage on, that is the one where we should be fleet of foot, we should be quick, and we should not just be responsive, but we should seize the initiative and inform the world that, look, this is what we lost in 47-48, and this is our land, this is our property. The other thing is the issue of terrorism still lurks. It's not gone away. There are still 80 to 90 rumored terrorists in the jungles of Jammu and Kashmir. So we also have to keep that going in the world opinion, that the danger to India has not disappeared. We are making the efforts, but we also need the code of world opinion to weigh in on our side. So I think these two are very important. One last point, Maria, if I may. It was very heartening to see for example, Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu leading people in a solidarity march with the nation. I think it was yesterday. And that's the sentiment all across from Tamil Nadu to Kashmir. Normal people living in villages, they also have come up with the same sentiment. But I do not know whether, in the past, the Bollywood industry, because that carries a major message, in the past, the Bollywood industry was always on front foot with regard to national solidarity and building up the tempo, building up the emotions positively amongst people. This time, I see that absent, and I wonder why.
Yes, but interestingly, Ambassador Dogra, only this morning, Amitabh Bachchan, the superstar of all times, has lauded Operation Sindoor and has said Jai Hind. So certainly, when it is when we speak about Bollywood, one of the most influential institution in this country, they have also spoken out in favor of Operation Sindoor. In fact, we have put out that tweet of Amitabh Bachchan. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Dogra, Rabinder Sachdev and Professor Shireen Moti at this hour.